Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to go over the 2 to 5 player game, Concordia, published by Rio Grande Games. Let's go ahead down the table. I'm going to give you a general overview of how to play this game, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. This is what an initial setup of Concordia might look like. To set up a game of Concordia, what you're going to do is you're going to notice that each of these have a letter assigned to them, like this is C, C's, these are C's, this is another C, but here's a D and a D, and you'll notice that these have letters on the back. You're going to shuffle these in groupings of letters and then place them on the board with a corresponding letter, so these will be randomized. Then you're going to look at each of the regions and you're going to figure out what is the most valuable good in that region. And on the top part of the board here, in each of those regions, you're going to place that good token, which is one of these guys, in that location. If you look at your player board itself, you can see the values of the goods. So your cloth is worth the most, then wine, then steel, then grain, then brick. So that is going to set up the main portion of the board. The next thing you have to do is determine how many players there are. And these cards here have little Roman numerals on the bottom. And you're simply going to keep decks equal to the player count. So for a 2-player game, you just keep deck 1 and 2. 3-player, you keep deck 1, 2, and 3. 4-player, you do 4, so on. Shuffle each of these individually and then place them in order. And then flip them out on this board. And I'll explain what that does in a second. For the players themselves are going to get 2 grain, 1 brick, 1 cloth, 1 wine, and 1 steel. They will also place 2 of their workers and 2 of their ships on the board, leaving only 2 spaces open. Now throughout the game, each player only has available to place any goods or on their lower player mount is empty spaces. So right now they can only place 2 more goods. The starting player gets 5 septeri, and the second player gets 6 septeri, third 7, and so on. Each player is going to get a really cool play rate, shows the conversion values and stuff. Their own deck, which will have a back that matches the color that they're playing. So look at their own deck. And the last player will get this prefix Magnus card, which I'll explain in a second. They will also place one of their workers out in Rome and one of their sail ships. And also they'll have the first player marker here. That's the basic setup for the game. Once that gets going, the first player is going to look at their hand, and they're going to pick which one of these they want to play. Now, to go over how to play the game, all we have to do is go over each of these cards, because even if they purchase cards out in the middle there, they pretty much do these same actions, some of them slightly better, but they do these same actions. So let's go ahead over each of these cards. Okay, so the first card we're going to go over is the Architect action. And what this does is it's going to have you move your colonist, and then you can build in cities adjacent to your colonists. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just show you what that means. This is going to be one of the major things that people do during a game. Also notice down below it has a planet and little victory point symbol. The cards in this game are also your points at the end of the game. The only way you really get points is through these cards. And I'll go over what each of these mean, but just know that each of these types has a different scoring on the bottom. And when you purchase cards out there, which we'll go over that action in a second, they will basically explain on the card what they do, and they have their point scoring on the bottom. So Architect action. What you're going to do for Architect action is you can move equal to the number of figures you have. So at the start of the game, everyone has 2, so you can move up to 2. Now you can move 1 2 spaces, or you can move 1 and 1. But for this example, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to build also. So we're gonna look at the board and I'm gonna say, okay, well, this looks good, 1, 2. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna try to build on this grain place and the brick place. Now on your player board, or actually on your little sheet that you get with the game, a little player aid, on the back it shows you the cost. Now when you're looking at this, so to build on the brick place cost 1 grain and 1 money. To build on the grain place cost 1 brick and 1 grain and 2 money. And the first player starts with 5 septary, so they have plenty of money. So if they wanted to do that, they would simply spend those resources and the money. So that would have been 3 money. So I will get 2 money back. And I'll get to place a house here and here. Now, why do you place houses on those? Well, some of the actions will let you activate these regions, and when the regions are activated, you will get the resources depicted on each of these locations. Now, if an opponent wanted to build on a place that already has a house, you actually have to take how many houses will be there. So if the opponent wants to place a greenhouse here, they would take that number, so it would be 2, because it would be the red house plus the greenhouse, and multiply that by the money cost. So they would have to pay, if they wanted to build in a brick place, they'd have to pay 2 money, but if they wanted to build in the grain place, they'd have to pay 4 money. And then the normal set of resources, so grain and a brick, those don't get multiplied, just the money. So it costs more to build in areas that already have people in them. You do want to do this because when you activate regions, not all the time, but later on you want to do this, when you activate regions, you will also get those same resources, which is very helpful throughout the game. That is basically movement. You're going to be able to move the number of figures that you have. So if you have 2 spaces, you can keep them all in 1 or separate them out, but that's how much movement you get. And you can build. You can build as much as you want for as much resources as you have. So that's the architect action. The next thing you can do is you could do any of these in any order. You just pick which one you want to do. And when you do, they go face down on the table. You can't replay them at all until you do an action, which I'll show you in a second. The next action is called the Mercator action. This one here, now this varies on depending on what card you purchase up there, but for now this one gives you 3 septary. So I'll get 3 more septaria, and I can trade up to 2 types of goods. Now what that means is I can either buy or sell, and I can take 2 types of goods. So let's say I take the iron and the wine, and I have to pick, or am I selling these or buying them? And I could do them individually. Like I could buy more iron and sell some wine, or I could sell both, or I could buy both, but the idea is that I can pick 2 goods and I can either pick one of the 2 actions with each of the goods, either buy or sell. If you look at the top of your player board, they tell you how much these things will give you and how much they cost. So a brick will give you 3 for every sell, a grain will give you 4, and iron will give you 5, wine will give you 6, and the cloth will give you 7. And that's also how much they cost. So that is basically the Mercator action. That's really all you do. You buy and sell goods to try to figure out what you need to do to move forward in the game. The other action that you could do that's really cool is you can do Diplomat. And Diplomat is simply just looking at what the last card other players played, and you get to copy it. That's it. So when they get some of those cool ones out there, you can copy those and get the super cool benefits from them. Another action that you can take is going to be Prefect, and you do get 2 of these Prefect cards in the game. So you could do one of 2 things. You can either collect the money or you can collect the goods. And what I mean by that is you could pick one of these regions. So let's say I'm going to pick Italia because I want to need the grain. So I look over here for Italia, which is here, and the highest good is there. I will get this good plus the good that my house is on, and as any other opponents have houses in that area, they will also get goods. Once I've done that, I'll flip that over. And people throughout the game will be activating regions with that action to get goods. At any time when I do that, I can instead select to take the money shown on each of these spaces. And when I do, I get the money and these flip back over. That's it, except for one caveat. If you have the Prefect Magnus card and you use the Prefect to gain goods, you will get double the good that's in that region, the top good, and you'll pass this card to the player to your right. So that is the advantage of being last player, and each player to the right after it's done will keep getting passed on. You get extra goods through the Prefect ability. There's only two left. One is the Senator ability. The Senator ability is really cool because you can purchase up to 2 new personalities cards and put them into your hand. And what you're going to be doing here is you're going to have to pay this good to get the card right here. And if it has an extra thing on the bottom, like here you have to pay an additional any type of good. Here you have to pay a cloth, extra good event, your choice, cloth, and here 2 cloth because those are the most valuable. So you purchase up to 2 cards. Once you purchase the cards, let's say I get these 2. These cards, as you notice, like this is a better marketer option. It gives you 5 Septaria instead of 3. And it has a cool scoring option down on the bottom. And this one here, when you play it, will produce you bricks for all of your brick places. Also, it has a scoring thing where you'll get 3 points for every brick place that you have a house on. So you'll get those cards and they go into your hand. So you'll be able to keep playing. After you've done your action and you've completed it, you'll move all these down and you will place 2 more out. The last action, or whatever number to fill it up, the last action you can do is the Tribune action, and the Tribune action is pretty cool because you're going to take back all the personality cards that you've played, and you're going to gain 1 Septarius for each card taken in excess of 3. So if you have 7 cards, you'll get 4 money. In addition to this, you can spend a grain and a steel to place one of your workers out of your off your board onto the board, and they always go in Rome. This will give you more space in your area for goods, and that's it. That's all the cards. If you get any other cards in here, some have slightly different, but they say on what they do. So that's the gameplay you're going to be going through. You're going to spread out on this board. You're going to be doing all these different actions to get these different things. But why? Well, the game will end when one of 2 things happens. When we run out of cards, or someone places their last house. Okay, so the game's ended. What happens now? The person who ended the game is going to get the 7 points. And I will mention that everyone else gets one last turn to do what they need to do, but that person will get 7 points. And you're going to figure out your score. So you might as well start off with this guy gets 7 points. So if it was a red player, get 7 points. Then you're going to go down and you're going to look at the other side of your card here. And this is going to show you the different scorings for each one. So you could start off with Vesta, which is going to be any card with this purple bottom on it. You're going to separate all your cards out that match that. So like in this case, you have the Senator card. You're going to take a look at how that scores. This one will score 1 victory point for every 10 Septaria you have. And then you're going to take the number of these cards that you have, in this case for Vesta, and you're going to multiply it that. So if I have 2 of these, then I would get 2 points for every 10 cards, and then that would be my score, and I move it up. The next thing is going to be Jupiter. And Jupiter looks like this. And Jupiter, for each house inside a non-brick city, the player receives 1 victory point, which is a max of 15 because you can make 15 houses. So you're going to see how many houses that you have down that aren't brick, and you're going to get 1 point each. And then for every Jupiter that you have, you're going to repeat that. So if I have 5 Jupiters, I will get 5 points for each house that's not a brick instead of 1. And that's Jupiter. Sagittarius or Saturn, I don't know how to say that one properly, which is going to be a lot of times on these prefix cards, but they could be on a different one. This is for each province with at least one of your houses in it. Now there's 12 different provinces in the area, so you can get a max of 12 points. And again, for every single one of these you have, you'll get that amount of points each card. So that's that one. Then you have Mercus, which I'm also saying these wrong, but it's Mercury. And this one here is for each type of good that the player produces with their house, they receive 2 points. So for this is like the cornucopia one. So for if I produce all 5, then I can get a max of 10 points each for this card, which is not too bad. Then there is going to be Mars, and this is the Mars card. The Mars here just simply gives me 2 points per colonist that I have, which is going to be the ships and the people. So this one will give me a max of 12 points because I can have 6 colonists out. And again, for every copy you get that same thing happening. The last one's going to be Minerva, and Minerva is a little different. Minerva will give you points, variable different amounts of points for specific places that you control. So for every brick place I have, I get 3 points. They have one for wine, one for cloth, and so on. And those are all different. And simply the person with the highest score at the end of the game wins. Now, a couple different things I wanted to bring up is the game does not come with these the meeples with these looks on them. It comes from Levity Games. I will put the link in the description if you're interested in those. So that's it. That's basically how you play Concordia. This is general overview. Now I will mention this board is 2-sided and there's a smaller board on the other side. So if you play with lower player counts, you probably want to play with this one. This is the larger board. But anyway, let's go ahead back up to the table here and I'll give you my final thoughts on Concordia. So that was Concordia. Concordia is my favorite trading in the Mediterranean game. I love everything about this game. I really love how you don't know what your opponent's scores are and you're not quite sure what cards they have acquired throughout the game. You could try to pay attention a little bit so you get a general idea of what their strategy is, and that does affect yours. You might look at it and say, like, I'm trying to get all of Mars, so I'm trying to make sure I get all these people, but you're going to maybe pick up some of the other gods because you don't want to have such a multiplier on the other players so they don't get all the points they get for all their provinces, or they don't get as many points for all the different regions that they, or the different areas that they have acquired that aren't brick or whatnot. So there's a lot of player interaction in that, and it's a lot of thinking of what's in the goals of the other players. What are they trying to do? So it's really interesting in that. And I really like that the score doesn't tally up throughout the game. It does it at the end. I think that's great. I also like things like when you gather resources. When you gather resources, you could be giving resources to your opponent, or when your opponent gathers resources, you get resources. You just get stuff in this game, which is really cool. When you do the trade action, you get money and stuff. It's really satisfying to spread it on the board. It's really satisfying for the trades. They're really simple and they've been streamlined. This game is the perfect trading in the Mediterranean game. I just think that if you're looking for one of those and you want to give it a shot, Concordia should probably be your first. It's definitely a fun game and it's definitely worth trying, despite the horrific art on the front that looks like the most bored woman on the face of the planet is trading with money, which is not reflective of the game very much. But that's my general thoughts on Concordia. Like I said, if you're looking for trading the Mediterranean game, or you're just looking for a cool game that you can play with even people that are new to the hobby, because it's pretty easy to explain, this game may be a game you want to check out. So, thank you for watching.